Hello and welcome to the CiviWiki weekly meeting. Today is Monday, March 5th, 2018. My name is Briley Christopher Oxley and I'm joined here by...
I am Joe Grassel. I work on Reddit.
Paul Scheid.
Oh, hi, I'm Juhi Lee.
My name is Gordon, but pretty much everybody prefers Drew.
I can barely hear Gordon. Is that the same for everyone else?
Yeah, he's very quiet.
Sorry, I'm bouncing. I've got a toddler here that I don't want him to blow out all your eardrums, and trying to keep the mic volume high as well. So I do apologize about that.
It's no problem. I think we can hear you. We'll just have to pay a little attention to what you say. And I think you're loud enough for the video to pick you up as well. Are there any other introductions here? A couple. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have one more fellow Jitster. Or am I counting wrong?
I think somebody might be signed in twice. Is that possible? I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes when you like join and leave, you'll still be kind of lingering here. Okay. In any case, I think we've all done our introductions, and now I'm screen sharing the waffle board. We'll try to keep this meeting maybe like within 10 or 15 minutes if we can. Keep it pretty brief. I think we have actually a little bit of momentum to keep building on. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Juhi if you want to give us a quick development update, and then we can look at some of these good first issue and help wanted tasks right after that.
Juhi, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I was talking. All right, I'm good. So yeah, I don't have much updates in terms of development. I did have another task I had to do. I'm teaching a class outside. But nevertheless, development is still on task for creating and integrating the REST framework for the REST endpoints. And moving on from there, one thing I did want to mention was I did have a discussion with Mitchell prior to the meeting about introducing a new kind of concept into developing threads, which involves separating out the thread discussion into a discussion portion and then a vote session. So there is like a specific time limit for each session to occur within a thread. So we could have a brief discussion now, but I did advise Mitchell to make a Lumio post about it. So that should be up for more in-depth discussion on the website on Lumio. But I was just wondering if what people thought about basically separating out phases on Civi discussion, with sorely draft portion or a discussion portion where the users are on the thread to develop the idea more thoroughly, and then moving on to a voting phase where the discussion is now voted on, and then the most acute or appropriate solution is reached upon. And then once it reaches the finish phase, there is an automatically generated kind of summary of the whole discussion events that gets sent to an email to a rep. So it does put the thread /civies on a timeline. I feel like Abby and Mitchell felt like that would put more the thread on a more time sensitive and engaging manner. But any thoughts on that? And more discussion on Lumio later, but initial thoughts would be great.
Sounds
Or
like a
questions.
pretty good idea.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Also, I'm just trying to think conceptually how we would model that.
I don't think I fully grasp exactly like the details of how that would be implemented. So I think I would appreciate more details on the implementation of that before I can really fully understand where we're going.
Yeah, so the basic idea on that is that when a discussion thread is opened up, it's put on a time limit. So there is a time limit on however much discussion or civies are drafted, and then discussion happens, and then there's a time limit on where the civies are each voted, and then the final time is on, and then where it reaches the conclusion phase where everything's wrapped up and automatically sent to a representative and whatnot.
So is the time limit decided upon by the person who creates the discussion thread?
I believe for now it would be the responsibility of that would be laid upon the thread creator, just because everything right now is centralized. The permissions are centralized upon the thread creator. But we could talk more about the permissions and whatnot and opening up groups later.
Okay.
Could there be the option to thread becomes more involved later?
Do you mind
Sorry,
saying that
option
again?
two.
I think we missed about the middle portion of that comment.
Oh yeah. Would there be an option to extend the time if the thread became more involved later on?
So the reason that this idea is introduced is so that it kind of promotes the writers to put in time and kind of promote the discussion from occurring instead of kind of stagnation. So the time sensitivity is in some sense like a motivator to create content, but so it should be set in so that there is a reasonable level of reasonable time limit initially. But we could see it into changing it later on. But for now, I would think we would set specific kind of suggestions on kind of reasonable timelines, and then make sure within our website to set reminders on discussions that you're interested or threads that you're interested or participating in, so that active content is being contributed within the timeline. So my thought on that is that we don't want timeline or time limits to be changed that often. And if timelines are changed, maybe we could have something like, an extension period that could be kind of triggered by the thread creator. But for now, my thought is that time limits should not be changed.
How long do you
Yeah, okay.
expect a thread to be open for? I mean, are you talking like a week, month, 6 months?
Yeah, I think some of this we can discuss a little bit further on the Lumio. We're getting kind of down into the weeds here. One of our goals here is to keep to the best of our ability, to keep our weekly meeting brief. The Lumio allows us asynchronous discussion, but if you want to go ahead and respond to that, Juhi, briefly. Just wanted to kind of keep us at a high level right now.
Okay, so a lot of the beta testing a lot of the testing we did in terms of the content creation was done within a day. So, and there was a lot of content put in within a day, and threads completed within a day because we pulled everyone, all the participants, at certain time frames, and then so the discussions were able to be created rapidly. But that timeline is definitely something we can kind of see, and like try out which ones are best. But for now, this is an idea that might be more phased in later on after we get more testing on the discussion system as a whole. On our platform, and it's not going to be implemented right away, so the variable of the time limit is something that we're going to have to see based on the content that gets created without these time phases. But yeah, I agree with Riley. We should move the discussion to Lumio, and Mitchell, I believe, should make a post more detailed and a thorough post on this on Lumio, so we can move the discussion there.
Cool, and I'm working on. Looks like Paul already gave us the link. Thanks, Paul. I was working on getting that myself. Let me get back to the full screen mode. Okay. Oh yeah, and just really quickly, I think it's a great idea, and I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the data model in the Lumio chat. But briefly, I think this idea calls for an explicit kind of table like Civi timelines, and that might have a foreign key relating those, and having explicit fields for each stage of the timeline. Um, but I'll articulate that more in the Lumio discussion. And we should probably consider driving this API first, getting to the user interface, laying the user face on top of the API, the REST API. So we should defer this work until we have more confidence about how Django REST framework works by modeling the civis and the relationships more explicitly in Django REST framework. Which, Juhi, do you have an open issue about that where you have that work in progress?
No, I don't, but I should have that post.
Okay, make sure to have an issue open and in the in progress column, so it's because it's really easy to lose track of stuff, and this in progress column is just a very concrete way for us to know what's going on, and particularly when we come back to the meetings. So just thanks. There it goes. Okay, cool. Then so if we can move on to the good first issue and help wanted tasks, is there anything else before that anyone would like to bring up? Okay, cool. So this week we've had the opportunity to get some first pull requests from new contributors, and pull requests 153 and 154 were merged in. Did you face any difficulties getting a development environment set up, or is there anything we can do to help make that process easier? What was your takeaway from doing that work? Let's see. Well, let me double check. Who who did pull request number 153 and 154? Are you in the meeting now? This is Ryan Barrett. 153 and pull request 154.
I don't believe that was anyone in the meeting.
Okay, sorry.
Ryan. I don't think.
Sorry for the confusion. Just a coincidence. And W. Collins 3. Okay, cool. We had 2 new contributors this week, and we have and we have a new member in the call. Basically, do you have a link to this waffle, Goku, to our project planning board?
Yes. Yes, I was sent a link to the waffle. I've got it open.
All right. If you'll notice, in the ready column towards the bottom, there's a task number 38. No, I'm sorry, prioritized backlog column. Towards the bottom, there's about 5, 6 tasks there that have green labels, and they're labeled as good first issue and help wanted. These are really bite-sized, kind of literally one line of code in most cases, and we've already had some new contributors that have taken a couple of those, merged a pull request today and one yesterday as well. Would you like to take any of those tasks from that prioritized backlog column?
Sure. Go ahead and assign me one.
Okay. Let me
I'll
make
just
sure
add it to
that
the
we've
file.
got your screen name here. I can invite you to the organization. What is your GitHub username?
The same. Goku Mizuno.
Okay.
All one word, capital G, capital M.
Great. I'll get you invited after we get off the call. And it's kind of one of the kind of general concepts of Agile is that developers can maybe ideally would be able to pick their own, choose their own adventure. So if there's any of those tasks that you would particularly like, you can self-assign. For the first one, I can go ahead and assign you. But by way of example, these pull requests that were merged and the two of them that are in progress were self-assigned by the developer. They just showed interest and chose. They said, "Can I take this one?" We were like, "Yeah, go ahead." So if you will log into GitHub and just pick one of those and maybe mention me. My GitHub name is Briley. Just say @Briley. I'd like this one, and we'll get you assigned there. That way we get in a flow of going back and forth on GitHub. Does that sound like an all right way to do it?
Okay. I'll go ahead and add that. I'm actually logging into GitHub as we speak.
Okay, cool. And we can take those conversations forward on GitHub. So I think that's about it for our development update. Stay tuned for the post on Lumio. That's going to help us explore this new idea of how to move civies forward in a timely manner. And we'll get some of these new good first issues, get them assigned and maybe merged. Pull requests open and merged this week, and I can help work you through those steps if you're not familiar with them. Are there any other? Go ahead. Would anyone else?
Sorry, Joe. Is there somebody named Joe on this call as well?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so I think Briley, we have two new developers. So I think we should get Joe set up on GitHub as well and help him get assigned to one of those good first issues.
Okay, cool. Sorry about the confusion, Joe. I didn't mean to leave you out. I have two that say fellow Jitster, and I know we were talking earlier. I didn't know if those were like phantom ones or what. Joe, can you send me
Is
in the
there
chat your GitHub?
extra person in chat?
Oh, what was that?
Joe,
I just see 5 people in chat.
There's probably one that is not a real person, but one of the ones that says fellow Jitster is Joe. Joe, do you mind? What's your GitHub username so that Briley or I can add you to the GitHub contributors list?
My GitHub is Delta Plus. It's just Delta -plus.
Okay, I went ahead and I typed it in the chat. Do you see? Did I spell it correctly? I think it's pretty straightforward, but just to double check, can you see it in the chat message?
I can't actually see the chat right now.
Okay, sorry, you're on a move. No worries. I'll send you an invite to the organization today and then mention you, but I believe I spelled it correctly in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, cool beans. It looks like we're good on the developer story. Are there any other outreach or other issues anybody would like to bring up before we adjourn?
So since we do have new developers, just before we adjourn, I just wanted to make sure everyone's on the same track in terms of the links they have and the access to the resources they have in terms of the project. In terms of our GitHub project, Open CiviWiki, which I'm sure everyone has a link to. It's want to make sure that everyone knows that under the issues and milestones, we are on the 0.2 milestone. So all the issues that extend on from Waffle should be stemming from the 0.2 milestone. And if you look at it right now, it looks to be 17% complete. And you can see just the whole blob list of things we need to complete for the 0.2 milestone. And that is our nearest goal for CiviWiki. And our next resource pool is Riot. Does everyone know of our Riot chat? That's where primarily our communication occurs. So any immediate questions like that should be addressed within Riot chat. Does everyone have a link to our Riot chat?
I do not have a link.
Okay.
I pasted the link in this
So
this
that
chat, so we're gonna have to
that
get
was
you
posted.
on an email or something.
So is Riot
Okay,
like
and
a message system?
yep, it's just like Slack or just whatever you use to message. It's convenient in the sense that you don't need to download a whole app, you know, to get it started, and then it comes with other benefits. But yep, that's the chat we use. And it also automatically pulls updates from our GitHub. The third website being Lumio. I believe that was the website that was posted earlier, and that's for the more in-depth discussions on developing the website. And then the final resource being Waffle, and you should be able to connect your GitHub account to get that activated.
Okay,
But yeah, those four main things should be it. And I see Briley editing the links on GitHub. So if anyone needs the links later on, you should just pop into GitHub, and if you go to the README, the link should be there.
awesome.
I'm just gonna commit right to master in this, so or whatever our main development branch is. So if you might need to pull those changes down when you're if you have an active branch there, Juhi. I don't want to mess up your development work. I'll do a pull request. Never mind. I take that back. I'm going to do a pull request, just a small branch. And if Juhi, if you could review it and approve it, I would appreciate it.
Oh, and final note just before we go, Joe, I believe you need to email Mitchell to finalize any details about the initial project. So yeah, make sure you get in contact with Mitchell West. I don't know if you have his email or not, but
Yeah, I do.
okay.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. That's a wrap. Unless there's anything else, Juhi, do you have any other? Thanks for, by the way, Juhi, for clarifying all those high-level details. I completely forgot to do that.
Okay, so yeah, with the new developers on board, let's try to finalize what we want you guys to do and which tasks we want you guys to be on Riot by the end of the day, so that we can kind of get things going. Does that sound good? Just deciding on what you're gonna work on.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that Briley just added both of you to the repository as collaborators, so you can go on and assign yourself to first issues.
Cool.
Yeah, the CSV export option looked pretty cool.
Hey, that sounds great. If you'll go ahead and just mention me on that issue, and we can get you assigned there and start working on it. If that seems like something that's within your comfort zone.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll have a meeting next Monday at the same time, same channel. And have a great week, everybody.
Yeah, you too.
Bye, everyone.